Hello, Scorpio. Welcome to your September 2025 astro numerology reading. This is for Scorpio rising. And of course, regular Scorpios might feel this energy if you don't know if your sun sign is Scorpio versus your rising sign is Scorpio. There's plenty of free platforms where you can find out. You could be both a Scorpio and sun rising, and it just depends on when you were born. Okay, so check it out for yourself. All righty then. So let's get started with Scorpio. We're going to talk about the astronumerology reading, meaning astrology and numerology together. We're going to start with numerology, my fave. And the numerology for September is 9. We are in a 9 year, and as we have all seen, a lot of lessons have come out of this year thus far. The ninth month brings more lessons. A lot of endings have come out of this year. The ninth month brings more endings. Does this mean death? Yes. Death in the physical sense? Yes. Death in the spiritual sense? Yes. Death in the emotional sense? Yes. A lot of grieving, right? Because grieving the loss of things that has occurred. And for you, Scorpio, you're going to see more of that this month, just because of how close this energy is to your natal house, which is the eighth house. Your ascendant is your body, the first. And the ninth house is represented by the ninth month. That is your second house. So they are one house away from each other. So always following together. So for you, the second house is Sagittarius in your natal chart. So anywhere that Sagittarius is impacted throughout this month, you're going to have another boost of some type of impact there. Your career might change, might end, might conclude some kind of way during this month. Could be a great thing, right? But there's always a grieving of what was the past that has you have to go through that grieving process. So Scorpio in general is one of those signs that weather the storm, right? Because they are off to the next. They're like, building their own thing, building their own path. I know most people think of Scorpio as the money type energy, but Scorpio is not just about money in the sense of coins. The Scorpio is about legacy in general. High vibing Scorpios. We know the low vibing Scorpios just spend all the money. I digress. So this month, September, you're going to look at 9 Sagittarius energy, ninth house energy, which for you is your second house of Sagittarius. And then you're going to look at how this relates and the energy follows you. Letting go, doing the work that it takes to move past whatever it is that you have to let go. Remember, if you haven't seen one of my readings in a long time or you don't follow me regularly, I have a couple of rules. One, if I say a date, September 1st, that means the day before, the day of, the day after, because it's a 3-day window. If I say 2 weeks or energy is going to happen around the 15th, there's a 2-week in numerology. So August 31st, then there's 2 weeks from that. So that's August 31st through September 15th. And then there's 2 year cycles. So the next year starts, for instance, in November, will be into 2026 energy, right? So there's always a little 2 when it comes to the numerology. There's a 3 when it comes to the astrology. It is what it is. Okay. All right. Those are the ground rules. Now I have both your charts open, what it looked like natally, and I also have the energies that are cycling. Everyone has a Venus, Mercury, and K2 energy going together, which means Venus and K2 together says you're not necessarily satisfied with some aspect. And wherever that energy is in your chart, you're going to not be 100% okay with it. You might like it, but there's something just off about it. Mercury being that little energy that says, I need to put something together. I gotta do some planning. I gotta make some things happen. You know, I can do this, right? Mercury kind of thinks that they can do this because it's a little naive that they can do that, right? Which is good in sometimes in business, right? For Scorpio, that's good. You got to think you can do it. But then you have something that feels a little off, and you have to find what that is in those areas. The other energy that everybody's experiencing is this Rahu and Saturn energy. And Saturn itself is not a bad energy. It rules Capricorn, it rules Aquarius. Saturn is an older kind of get it done, kind of energy. Saturn is all out by itself, kind of a little alone doing its own thing. And Rahu wants to be invited to the party. Rahu wants to be a part of what's going on. And Rahu will show you, hey, I can show you how to have a good time. I can show you how to make things happen. I can show you how to meet your goals until you don't do what Rahu needs for it to do. So those energies are not necessarily in line, right? One wants to be at the party and one doesn't. One wants to go home and go to sleep. So those are conflicting energies that would be in another part of your chart. So together, and at one point they all will come together, but so wherever they are starting out, then they're going to float, and then you're going to see that energy influence you. So I'm going to move the chart and look at where we're starting out. The Venus Mercury K2 energy for you starts out in your Venus right at your 10th house, right? Which is not just career, like your second house with your money. This is career and establish like what you're here to do, right? So there's something that you're here to do and you're attracted to and you love it and you're like, yes, I'm here to do this. But then there's that K2 energy, which is actually all the way up in your 11th house when we start, that's saying, maybe I don't feel that I have all of the resources necessary to do this thing. And now you're trying to figure out how to get those resources, or do you let go of that thing, right? That's the start. On the opposite scale, you have in your 6th house of health, you have that Saturn. So then your bones, your joints might be going, I need a rest. I need to recover, right? But then that Rahu part of it, that's kind of in the 6th and the 5th house, is like, hey, let's go hang out with the youngsters. Let's go hang out with the kids. So you have some conflicts coming up in September, which means you have some decisions that you have to make that are opposite sides of the coin. One side is, do I go hang out with everyone and not necessarily, recover well the next day? Or do I go home and rest and recover and kind of go into my winter habitation? So you're going to be faced with that kind of decision at the beginning. And it doesn't necessarily have to just be about you. This could be as simple as going to a grandchild's program, right? Taking a grandchild to a sporting event versus going to a social event with your friends who are much older. It's really that kind of different thing of making a decision. Those are two different scenarios. So it's not always bad, right? But it does mean a different type of decision because the energies are pulling against each other. So let's go forward. So as we continue to move forward, we have the Venus and the Mercury and the Mars energy joined together in your 1st house. So you might be attracted to your appearance in your 1st house, but this is a time that says you actually need to be more active. You need to find some activity in your body. So whatever physical activity it is, the energy is calling for you to get up and move. You need some movement. Maybe, hiking, rowing, whatever it is, you need some movement in your body because that's what the energy is saying. You will feel more youthful in your body if you do some movement. And that's around the 14th of September. So, at least the 2nd, 3rd week of September, you're going to need to start going, physically. Moving on with your energies. Around about the 20th of the month, you're going to have a little bit of a revelation, right? And this revelation is going to be in your 11th house. And this revelation is going to be dealing with, for you, the 11th house is your Virgo energy, right? And Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury and Venus are similar in the fact that they're youthful, they can get it done, they believe in the ideal. So Venus believes in the idea of beauty and I can get it done. Mercury believes in the idea of I might have a little bit of fun, but I'm gonna make a plan of how to get it done. But this is also the health type of energy, right? The Virgo normally is the sixth house, and the sixth house is about competition, sports, health, death, in another sense, not the eighth death, but another sense of death in loss, right? Loss from like a sporting event, right? Loss from like financial events. So you might have to pay attention to your money because it is in your 11th house. You might be benefiting from looking at some technology when it comes to if you're into competing with someone in business. Maybe you need to have more technology to make your business be more successful. If you're looking at finances, maybe you need to do some research on things like maybe you need a bookkeeping system. You might need to look at ways of bringing in more technology in order to be successful and including in health, right? There might be technology out there that can assist you in your health area. It's multiple areas there. People get hung up on one thing, but it's more than one thing. Um, so it's really that Virgo is like a routine. Virgo and Gemini both have established routines with writing and oral routines and patterns that they form. And those patterns normally cause them to have success, right? So let's move a little bit further and see anything else. What you say now? Last week, very last week of the month, you're going to have a little bit of a conflict. And this conflict is going to be basically a challenge between what you feel you have come here to do and a contract that you have signed that prevents you from doing what you feel you have come here to do. And you're going to have to read the fine print to figure out how to get out of that and do what it is that you really desire to do. But there's going to be some resistance at that's around September 26th, where you see that happen. And rest of it looks pretty decent. Just the Venus, Mercury, Mars, all of those things in the very last part, last week of September, first part of October, which is getting into your season. Um, it's too much, right? It's just too much. It's you're going to have you can't be enjoying life in a sense of playing all the time and yet making plans and you gotta do some at one time and some at another time. Work hard, play hard, but you can't just be playing or working because that's going to end up being explosive for you at the end of the month. So you need to do a Libra thing and bring some balance back into play, especially considering this energy is in your 12th house. Your 12th house is actually Libra. And the 12th house is the house of death, of house of conclusions, the house of transitioning, the house of spiritual awakening. And perhaps you're going to realize that you need a little bit more balance in your life in order to achieve all the things that you need to achieve. A little bit of more of that Libra energy needs to be present at the last week of the month. So everything else looks pretty decent for you. Your main thing is to watch out for the financial areas and watch out for um, making a decision as to what you came here to do versus what you're contractually obligated to do and take care of your business affairs. All right. Bye.